Last chance for the Steelers. Bradshaw trying to get away. And his pass is broken up by Tatum. Tipped off. Franco Harris has it. And he's over. What? Franco Harris grabbed the ball on a deflection. 5 seconds to go. He grabbed it with 5 seconds to go and scored.
Let's watch this again.
1 million to 1 odds on this one.
Ricochet out there off of Jack Tatum and into the Man of the Year, Franco Harris's hands.
Here's the miracle of all miracles.
Now, back to the morning roast with Bonte and Shasky.
No Bonte, no Shasky today. Kevin Michael, Whitey Gleason, and Charlie Walter in on 95.7 The Game. Yeah, 50 years ago today, the Immaculate Reception, and I know it's still not funny. It's never going to be funny to Raider fans. The reason I was chuckling, Charlie, just listening to that was Kurt Gowdy on the call. And back then, announcers were so understated. You know, can you imagine if something like that happened today? I mean, there's Kurt Gowdy going, and there it is. It's the miracle of all miracles.
I could barely hear the call. Nowadays, imagine Gus Johnson on the call.
Yeah.
Touchdown!
Yes, exactly.
I mean,
it's way better now. I'm not saying those. It's just funny. Even back then, like if you see film from the 1960 whatever World Series and the Cardinals win, and they go out, they kind of jump around and go, "Hey, yeah, we won the World Series."
Cronkite coming out there, and that's the way it is. It was just a different style.
Yeah,
of broadcast.
And the Cardinals have won
the
the World Series. They're the world champions. So that was And then tomorrow, of course, one day after the 50th anniversary, we got the Steelers and the Raiders again, but sadly no Franco, whom we lost this week.
Yeah, number 32 will be retired in that game. We still haven't really seen a play like that. We've seen a lot of great tip drill plays over the years, but we've never seen, that was the ultimate boing, off the pads, ricocheted about 10 yards. You don't see that often.
Yeah.
Even all these years later, can't really point to a play that was similar to that one. It really was a miracle.
We had some bizarre finishes and plays just last weekend, but no particular play like that, which, of course, led to a rule change because the whole question at the time was, did it bounce off of the defender, Tatum, or did it bounce off of, I think it was Frenchie Fuqua, because it can't go offensive player to offensive player. Did Franco Harris even catch the ball cleanly? Terry Bradshaw just came out last week and said, yes, I'm convinced the whole thing was clean. I don't know, but it was one of those things that just used to seem to happen to the Raiders during that period. I think led to, in some minds, the idea that the league is somehow it's a conspiracy against the Raiders because it was not a clean play. Anybody else, they would have waved it off, but against the Raiders, they let it stand.
And they've been cursed since, and maybe they broke the curse the other day with Jacoby Myers tossing them the football right there and giving them the gift of victory. Maybe. Finally, the fortunes have turned. It's going to be tough sledding because they have to hope for a lot of Chargers losses over the next few weeks, and now the Chargers are getting healthy, so that's going to be tough. But Raiders did do it last year, not in this position. They weren't nearly as far behind to come back from, but you're telling me there's a chance.
You just mentioned that because they lost to the Bengals in the playoffs, right? You just wanted to lead us to that road.
No, I was just mentioning that the Jets lost yesterday. The Jets look cooked at this point. The Jags are on the rise, but if the Chargers can somehow slip up and the Raiders can, well, here's the deal. The Raiders have the Chiefs and the 49ers, so that's where you can pretty much just say, this ain't happening.
Tough sledding.
Yeah, tough sledding, but hey, you're telling me there's a chance.
Yeah. You know what else happened 50 years ago? The Dolphins were undefeated. Bear with me here. I'm going somewhere on this. Dolphins, 1972 Dolphins. They won every game, 14-0. Then they won their 2 playoff games, and they won the Super Bowl, 17-0. Perfect season. Bob Greasy was their quarterback, and in Game 5 that year, he broke his leg, so he was out. So they brought in a guy named Earl Morrall, and he was the backup quarterback, and he led them the rest of the way until they got to the AFC title game, and he was struggling. Don Shula says, hey, Bob Greasy, you good to go? Yes, I'm good to go. They brought him in. He wins that game, wins the Super Bowl. What do you think is a chance that we see anything like that with if Brock Purdy struggles in the playoffs and back to Jimmy? You think that's how possible? Is there any way that happens?
If the NFL has taught me anything, and it's not just the quarterback situation, let's take it week to week. Let's take it week to week. After Chicago and And after Denver specifically, people push the panic button on this team. People push the panic button on the quarterback position. I mean, they're sitting here right now, are the 49ers, with 3 quarterbacks that you could potentially point to each one of them and say, all right, they could move forward with him. They could move forward with him. Now, Purdy, I think people want to see more from him in terms of, just reps in general.
And what happens if he's behind, for example?
Every single time he's gone out there, he's proved that he's a starting quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
And yes, there are players like this, the Fitzmagics of the world that come around and have 4 or 5 good starts, and you say that's a starter in the NFL, and then you put him on a different team, or you just let 3 weeks go by and you say, maybe not so much. Tommy Maddox was like that back in the day with the Steelers. He had a decent run where you're like, Tommy Maddox, maybe.
Sure.
He may be a starter in this league. But, I mean, Brock Purdy, I think the most impressive thing about him is he knows who he is. He doesn't try, as Mike McGlinchey says, we call him Soundbite Lord with Channel 5, because Mike McGlinchey, out of all the
Soundbite Lord.
Out of all the 49ers out there, think about it, that you would interview after a game, Mike McGlinchey would be like number 10, number 12 on the list. But the media heard, they sprint to McGlinchey because he gives you what you want.
Nice.
He gives you the sound
yes.
bites. After someone gets hurt, I'm heartbroken. He gives you that bite. And he basically said Brock Purdy doesn't need to be Superman. He's playing like him right now, but doesn't need to be Superman. Just needs to know who he is and go out there and execute. And that's what he's done. He doesn't try to do too much. The moment isn't too big. And how about that vision? How about the vision? Scans the field.
It's amazing.
It's really good for a rookie.
So far, so great for Brock Purdy. By the way, speaking of the Niners, Jordan Elliott from Niners Nation is going to join us about 8 o'clock to look at what the advanced numbers say about Brock Purdy and how well he's playing. You mentioned that Brock Purdy doesn't have to be Superman. Reminds me of a guy that he knew in college that he went to college with, Tyrese Halliburton. Tyrese Halliburton was just talking about Brock Purdy. They got to know each other. And Tyrese Halliburton said, he's like Batman. So it's just funny when you say, doesn't have to be Superman. Maybe he is a little more like Batman than Superman. But the question is, what happens if he gets behind? But there's, as you say, he plays with so much confidence and just seems to be, it's maybe too early to say, but a perfect fit for the way the 49ers are attacking people.
When was the last time the 49ers have been behind in a football game? I guess L.A. Chargers?
Yeah. Were they trailing the Dolphins early?
Yeah, it was 7-3 when he came in.
7-3,
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
so 7-3 against the Dolphins.
So he was behind technically.
But that was very early. I'm talking in a meaningful third, fourth quarter. The last time the 49ers were trailing a football game, it was before Thanksgiving. I don't know what this team's weakness is. And it takes 22, 23 if you're including the 12th man. And Brock Purdy has 21 of the best NFL players in the league around him at every position. Linebackers, loaded. Edge rushers, unreal. Safeties. I mean, Hufanga's been great. Tashawn Gibson's been really good. The veterans stepping in there. Corners, they've been good despite injuries to Emmanuel Mosley. Offensively, running backs. Even Jordan Mason steps in there. He's a downhill runner.
Even the interior of the offensive line, which we probably talked about in September, said, I don't know, a little shaky, but
it's been
solid.
fine.
Yes,
yeah, it's been fine. Ayuk's been good. The receiving court, Jawan Jennings has been a lot better than expected. So everywhere on this roster you look, and there just aren't many holes, and Brock Purdy sure as hell ain't one of them right now.
Yeah, it's a good point, and this team reminds me now of going way back, since we're going way back, talking about Franco Harris and everything. Bill Walsh's 49er teams, when they were just humming and winning multiple Super Bowls, they'd have a game against whoever, Tampa Bay, and Bill Walsh was great at saying, on any given Sunday, and Jack Thompson, he can sling it. And I get the same type of feeling from Kyle Shanahan this week, and I know he means it, but when he talks about Washington, boy, that defense, this is the best defense we faced in a while, and hey, they run the ball well, and this is they do things you need to do to be a playoff team. And I know the Commanders are not a bad team, but they got no chance to beat the 49ers, do they? Not the way the 49ers are playing, to your point.
Yeah, and here's how I'm looking at this game. I see the spread -7, and I wonder right away, what are the 49ers playing for? What are the Commanders are playing for? Commanders are playing for a playoff berth right now. 49ers have everything locked up. So you would assume right there, all right.
Well, excuse me, but they're still trying to get into the second spot. But
yes.
Yeah.
They're playing for either 2 or 3 right now. And if you somehow, some way, expect the Eagles to lose every single game. Maybe they're playing for the one, but it's either 2 or 3. It's the difference between maybe an extra home playoff game, which is huge. Don't get me wrong, but they also need help from Minnesota. And I don't know, Whitey. I don't know. All I know is I'm looking at the spread. I see the 7 points. The Commanders have a lot more to play for, but George Kittle yesterday in the locker room said, we're not taking our foot off the gas. I know that we could technically ease into the playoffs, get Christian McCaffrey some rest, and throw Jordan Mason in there. Maybe see a little more Danny Gray, a little less Brandon Ayuk. You still have to keep the line in there because you got to protect Brock Purdy, who needs all the reps he can get. But it sounds like the 49ers are looking to go into the playoffs humming. Take down the Commanders, cover that 7, beat them pretty good, and then do the same to the Raiders and the Cardinals and just go into the postseason with a 9-game winning streak.
Mm-hmm. Charlie does this thing, and I love working with Charlie, where he'll be in the middle of something like he just was, and he'll say something about, like, the 49er winning streak, and he'll start to smile, and I'm thinking, there's something in that's funny that I don't know about, and only Charlie knows about. Just every so often. You got that little grin that creeps in there, and it's like,
good teams win and the great teams cover, and the Niners have covered in 5 straight. I mean, they're just taking care of business right now.
Yes,
they're
they are.
better than everyone expects them.
Yeah,
in Vegas.
So you better win it all this year, right? Tell you why Kyle Shanahan definitely does not want to rest players, why he's so concerned about keeping, as you say, the pedal to the metal. But first, want to remind you that you're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco, always live on the free Odyssey app. Download the Odyssey app and favorite 95.7 The Game for the best and most up-to-date sports coverage. Don't forget, you can also watch us every day on our YouTube and Twitch streams. Just log on, search 95.7 The Game. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel while you are there. A moment ago, I mistakenly referred to Kyle Shanahan as a Mike Shanahan. Well, Mike Shanahan coached the Broncos when they won the Super Bowls in 97 and 98, right? And, of course, Kyle was a big fan and everything there. Well, 1996, the Broncos were 13-3, and they rested guys down the stretch. And Kyle talked about that this week and what an impact it had on him. So that's what the Broncos did in 96. 13-3. First round, they played Jacksonville, and I think the Jags were in their second year of existence. Final score was Jacksonville and Mark Brunell 30, Denver 27. And then after that, Denver won the next 2 Super Bowls. So you could argue, wow, they could have won 3 straight Super Bowls. Why didn't they? Well, in the minds of Kyle Shanahan, because his dad rested his players down the stretch, they were too rusty in that first game. So he definitely wants to avoid anything remotely resembling that with this 49er team.
I love the segue there. First of all, I think you threw out Mike Shanahan on purpose so we can weave in that story. You called Kyle Mike on purpose. You just admit it there. Yeah. But most teams go into the playoffs that end up winning a Super Bowl. They go in on somewhat of a streak, whether it's 5-6, 5-7. No one limps into the playoffs, then puts it together, figures it out, and wins a championship. That just doesn't happen. You want to go in playing your best football. And quite frankly, the 49ers with the Commanders, the Raiders, and the Cardinals, it's 3 games on the schedule. They should win. They should be coming in potentially either 8 of 9 or 9 straight wins. And if that's the case, 9 straight wins, let's say you potentially do catch the Vikings and get that 2 seed, you're cooking with Crisco.
Are the Vikings frauds? It's interesting. Online, Cowboy fans and Viking fans have a debate going about, you're a fraud. No, you're a bigger fraud.
Frauds.
Really?
It's the pot calling the kettle black.
Yeah.
I think they're both.
Your team's fraud. No, your team's
they're
big
both
fraud.
in that same tier. I think I may be able to lump the Dolphins in there as well.
Ooh.
The 3 teams that are solid. They may be able to sneak one out. There's 5 or 6 serious contenders right now, in my opinion. I think. And we could
get the fraud squad out.
We could sit here and shake on it right now, and I just about guarantee you that when February rolls around and we're working again 3 months down there, because it seems like it's a semesterly thing.
Yes,
we don't do this quarterly.
Every solstice.
When I do see you at the next solstice, at the spring solstice, we'll be talking about the 49ers down the stretch and what they did here, and I just completely lost my train of thought. That's what happens at 7 o'clock in the morning.
That's why I'm here. No worries. Yeah, the fraud squad's coming out.
I'm going to take a sip of my Ghost energy drink here. That'll help.
The thing about the Vikings, and by the way, I want to let you know, it's of course it's not Bonte Butch today. They're on holiday vacation, so it's Whitey Gleason and Charlie Walter on 95.
I was telling you about my teams. Let me finish real quick, just because before I lose it again.
Now that I do want to mention that we have shameless shout-outs coming up at 7:45. So get ready for that. Shameless shout-outs. You can shout out whoever you want. Shout out to my mailman. Shout out to Farhan with Michael Conforto, which we'll get to, whatever you want. So anyway, you have that coming up. Shameless shout-outs at 7:45. Charlie.
All right, the solstice.
Yes.
When we talk at the solstice, it's going to be from the AFC, one of the Bills, Chiefs, Bengals. One of those three, no one else. Titans,
Charlie's
good.
from Ohio.
Ravens, good. Well, they're the reigning AFC champs.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
I know.
And they've won
no
6
question.
straight.
Yeah.
They're sizzling.
Yeah.
And then from the NFC, it's the Eagles, it's the 49ers. Those 5 teams to me are it. When
You're
I
not
see
worried
it at the
about-
solstice, it's one of those 5 teams.
Okay.
Name them, I'm going to say no.
You're not worried about,
No.
No. I was going to say the Eagles with the quarterback got a bad wing. Minshew's playing for them starting against the Cowboys.
Then it makes the path easier for the 49ers.
Okay. All right. So everybody else is basically a fraud?
I wouldn't say fraud. I just don't know if they have.
we'll say fraud.
They're frauds. They don't have the firepower to go the distance. That's
All right.
what I'm going with. I mean,
who'd
when we're
you say
talking-
I'm sorry, in the NFC you said 49ers?
49ers, Eagles.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
I think the Vikings may be able to win a few games. Now, here's the deal.
You know that Craig, who runs the board, is a big Tampa Bay fan, right?
And one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen is that the Buccaneers have better betting odds to win the Super Bowl right now than the Dolphins, which to me is, I know that they're hosting a home playoff game.
The point is, he's running the board. He can make you look bad.
He can say whatever he wants right now. I don't care.
He can cut your mic off.
You
He can
just
have all
know
kinds
that
of
the Cowboys are going to lose, though, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's why they got better odds than the Dolphins do, because the Tampa will beat the Cowboys in the 4-5 matchup.
I don't care how many games Tampa wins. They're not winning the Super Bowl.
Oh, I'm not saying that either. Yeah,
They may be able to sneak one out, but that line is putrid. They don't have a running game. Like
getting any of their offensive linemen back. They get their center back or anything, Craig?
Get 2 guys back here this week and next week, and hopefully the team gets healthy. That's why I beat the Cowboys, but you're not going into Philly. They can't go into Philly and win. So
No, they're not going into San Francisco and winning. They can't string together multiple wins. If they do, respect to Tom Brady. It adds to the illustrious career that he's had, because that team stinks. They really do stink. I'm sorry, Craig.
they're hurt, bro. I'll take it.
There's just a nicer way to say it when the guy who's running the board is a fan.
Craig,
of the team.
happy holidays,
Yeah,
but your
yeah.
team sucks.
He's been waiting 30 years for the Bengals to be good. Let him have his moment here, okay?
Yeah. If the football gods have any mercy, they won't allow the 49ers to have a bad ending to their season, because fans who are fans of the Giants and the Warriors and the 49ers couldn't take that, could they? With everything else that's going on right now. And maybe the Warriors turn things around, but we're still dealing with the Carlos Correa situation. Like, well, at least we got, the Warriors, well, they're struggling right now. Hey, we got the 49ers on this incredible run. So the 49ers have to win it all this year, because otherwise they have some fans that I don't know if they could mentally survive it.
Yeah, you have to win it all, because the thing is, if you get to the Super Bowl, while some would say, "Oh, what a wonderful season. Let's go to the airport and cheer on these guys when they get home."
Beyond that now.
You're beyond that, A, and B, from experience, there is nothing worse than losing in that Super Bowl, because you know how hard it is to get back there.
You lost the Super Bowl?
Thanks.
Well, no, you said from experience, didn't you?
I was at the Super Bowl last
You were
year.
at the Super Bowl. I thought you were like playing in one. Or
No.
Okay. All right.
You think what position do you think I was? You think I was chasing down the tee back in my
Backup
day?
holder.
No, I was chasing the tee. I was quick out there. I would
Yeah.
slide, grab, and run.
Yeah. What do you think, Craig? Backup holder? Charlie, maybe?
More left out than
I'm not going to lie. I see Brock Purdy in the locker room. Yeah, name drop right there. And he's not that much bigger than I am. I mean, he's listed at 6'1", 220 on the media guide, but I see him sitting by his locker. He doesn't look 6'1", 220.
A lot of those guys, like, punters as well. You'd be like, this guy's on a football team?
Yeah. I mean, Brock Purdy doesn't look that much bigger than Robbie Gold.
Right.
The lockers are right next to each other. I see him all the time.
Yeah.
He's not the most physically imposing, but he's got a little better vision than T-Boy over here had.
I think it's fair at this point to say that this is the best 49er team that Kyle Shanahan's had, right? 2019, they were great. By their own admission, things kind of fell into place for them, and there's nothing wrong with that. But right now, as you said, stem to stern, if you will, it's hard to find a weakness. If you really were tried to be objective, you'd have to say, well, that quarterback. But, yeah, in theory, you think about it, intellectually, he should be a weak spot. But if you watch him play, it's like, no, so far anyway, he definitely isn't.
You have to get deep into the weeds and real nitpicky to find any problems with this team since really the month of November. Since that day before Halloween game against the Rams, they've been fantastic with the big win streak going on right now. It's how many wins in a row? We at 7 wins in a row? We are at 7 wins in a row. I mean, the Niners have won 7 straight right now. The one thing that we can nitpick, however, you beat the Seahawks. Seahawks kind of stink, despite the record that's average. They stink. Buccaneers, don't get me started on the Buccaneers.
You already
they can't
declared
run the
them
ball.
frauds
Their line
and they
is horrible.
stink and
you win
suck
games.
and, yeah.
You win games in December in the trenches, and the Buccaneers stink in the trenches, at least offensively. You beat the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins are pretty good, and that was a great win right there, especially having to improvise with Purdy coming in. You beat the Saints. However, if you watch the entire Saints game, you know that you got some breaks there. Some fumbles went your way, a fumble at the 1-yard line.
What are you saying?
I'm
What are
just
you
saying, if you really want to get nitpicky with it, who have the 49ers beaten aside from the Dolphins in the last 2 months?
Whomever they've played.
And that's all that you can do at this point in the NFL, because that's everyone's gripe with the Eagles, right? It's like, well, who have the Eagles really beaten? Everyone on their schedule.
Yeah.
Sure, they haven't played Kansas City. Sure, they haven't played Buffalo yet, I don't believe. But they've beaten everyone that's been on their schedule, including the 3 NFC East teams that are somehow predicted to make the playoffs right now.